Legends, another cold morning. Heading out to pick up the group.
Our starts have been colder than
pretty
normal.
much right, a little below actually freezing. It feels like 29 out here.
Yeah, it's minus 2C. It says minus 1.
29 Fahrenheit.
It's minus 1.9
Celsius. So it's cold. It's not supposed to warm up too much. Barely get to 9 or 10 C when we're done. So
this is colder than our normal range.
doesn't stop people from getting out. These guys are
running.
probably running.
They're walking across. We're gonna sneak across. This light doesn't change when there are no cars behind you. I don't know if you saw the water cooler to the right. There are a lot of runners out today.
Okay.
And they put drinks on the corners.
So we'll get some clips for you all. Should be interesting.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton, rode into the woodlands. We picked up our group. From the start, we headed down Research Forest, Huffsmith-Conroe, and then we went out on Honea-Egypt Road into the neighborhood. More caught up with the group when we're in the neighborhood. All of that's on film. Went out Springbranch Road, out into Tri-Lakes. We stopped when we got past Bobville there at the 105 store in Mount Moriah. Went through Mount Moriah to Dacus and came back, and we began to film, I think, after we left Taco for a little bit on Raven Chapel. I think you would love the clips we got for you. This ride just seemed to be very, very challenging. It was very cold and windy most of the ride. The wind shifted, so on the way back, we're still fighting the wind. I had a great workout. I actually felt this ride after I got off the bike. So yeah, did a lot of work on this ride. Heading towards the open road. We're on Huffsmith-Conroe Road, cutting through the neighborhoods here. We just went across 1488. We're going to take the Honea-Egypt Community Road and go through the Grand Lake Estates today. I was trying to avoid us fighting this north wind that brought this cold front. And it's warmed up a bit. It's 1 Celsius. It was minus 1 when we were on our way to pick up the group. But it's cold. Basically below freezing to start. The ride ended up being a lot harder than, I thought it would be, but it was a good workout. You will see there are stretches where when we got into Springbranch Road, my legs were like, okay, enough. I needed to take a break. And so I kind of sat on the back and then missed a little breakaway. So, you have to listen to your body, whatever it is you're doing. Don't go out there trying to ride for someone else. Listen to how you feel. That's Laura here in the Ale kit, matched up nicely with her Rafa top. Laura can put things together really well. And that's what matters. We see a lot of people will be riding, not necessarily on film. They have nice kit, but then they got, it's kind of like wearing stripes and circles. They just don't go together. So even though they're a nice kit, but when you put them with the wrong combination, you look like you found the stuff. You get my drift. You got to look the business. You got to do a little bit of investigating and research to try to put things together. Get your mates to help you or your significant other if that's not your forte. And over time, you will get a knack for it. Because it's not what you pay for it so much as opposed to how you put them together that matters. So at this point, Mo is not with us. We post the ride every week. I post the route. I download it from Garmin Connect, put it on the board so that people can put it on their head unit. So Mo is aware of the direction we're taking. And I think maybe he was a little delayed or probably held up by whatever group he was trying to meet. But he ends
the
up.
way your jacket goes with your tights.
Yeah, I thought, I could make this work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Paul is talking about, what I just mentioned. See how the letters on the alley match the top. It's not that hard. And you know, it's good that he mentioned that, because before I buy something, in my mind, I'm already thinking, okay, what is this going to go with that I already have? You know, if you're getting a jersey, we all know we got black shorts and all of that. Yeah, that makes it easy. So the jersey goes with anything. And, you know, besides the fact that the black shorts historically were worn, because if you change a flat and your hands get dirty, you can wipe it on the black shorts. They don't show up that much. They don't show up at all. That's another reason, you know, black is low maintenance. But if you're going to start delving into colors and prints and all of that, then you really got to start watching. See how she picked up the letters of the alley, and they really look well with that combination of the top. Just looks good. We turn on Honea-Egypt Community Road, and all of a sudden, look at my watts. The speed just picks up. I was not expecting this. We're going very fast. Paul was not expecting it. You can see the gap here. I think Doug is at the front. And as always, you know, no fuss, no muss. Let people have their fun. I rode up quickly. That's why you saw big watts to get on the wheel to save. You can hear the wind. It is just blowing in. That's why it's so cold today. It did not warm up much. The forecast had said it was going to be overcast, and thankfully the sun came. So we always welcome the sun on a cold day, especially. I like cloudy days in the summer. It keeps the temperatures down. But yeah, we're just going, I think we're at 37K. So we're doing about 24 miles an hour to start. And a lot of these guys, let's see, I know Laura drives to the parking lot. So if you drive to the parking lot, you really didn't get much of a warm-up to be going. You know, a lot of riders ride from their homes to the meeting place like we do. That's another reason I ride up there, because it takes me about 18 to 20 miles to really warm up. You know, more so when it's cold. The road kicks up here. So we're working. Look at those watts. So it was faster than I expected the start to be. So imagine we're doing 23, 24 miles an hour, and we'll do this for probably 20 minutes or so, and more catches us. So he had to be doing more than 40K consistently. I mean, basically, you know, you got to hold that effort. That's like a long time trial. And psychologically, when you can't see somebody, it's hard to keep pushing versus if you have company or you can see the quarry. So when he showed up in the neighborhood, I was pleasantly surprised. So being windy is not a deterrent. We're still riding. I don't know. That's Abby again in summer shorts. He says he wears tights. He has tights, but he wears them below freezing. Well, it was below freezing today. So no, I am not going to encourage the onset of arthritis on my knees trying to be tough. I didn't do enough drinking to kill my brain cells that much. So I'm wrapped up. I like to feel warm. And thankfully with the fabrics we have nowadays, they breathe enough to where you don't have to shed too much. So we're going into the wind about 30 miles an hour, let's say 30, 31 up there, and now it's about, 27 into the wind. So yeah, we're working. I'm staying very close on the wheels in front of me. The road will get a little choppy here with some patina. I'll point them out. I'll probably drift to the left. Yeah, that crack. It's uneven. It's almost like riding in uneven lanes. This is a very good clip. In a little while, I believe. Yeah, so that was Abby that was up front when we turned on Honea-Egypt Community Road. I had mentioned I thought it was Doug. Doug is pulling right now. He continues the effort. When Mike Barrera takes over, I'm going to mention to him, keep it steady. Because my concern is we've got a new rider in the group. Matt, not new, I mean new riding with us. And he's been, a little off his training. His name is Matt. And I didn't want us to burn him up or burn him off, especially since we're trying to grow our group as usual. And think about it when you do your group rides. So Doug pulls off. I've already told Mike to keep it steady. If you notice, the pace will come down a bit. The road's going up. He's going to keep it steady. So what I'm trying to mention is we got a rider who's new to the group, but not new to cycling. He's a bit off his fitness, and he lives in the area. He's ridden with us before, but this is the first time he's come to the Veloharmony group ride. And my goal is when people come, I want to make them feel welcome. We don't want to just ride away from them. I usually like to chat with them. If they say, yeah, keep going or whatever, that makes a difference. And I'm glad I did that because what ended up happening was he was invited to the ride by another rider, I believe Shampusan, who's here in front of Laura. Well, it doesn't mean that he'll come back if you all just ride away from him and leave him out here by himself, even though he knows the area. So it was an inadvertent thing. We kept our eye on him throughout the ride because whenever we would drift to the back, he would say, oh yeah, go ahead and get in, because he was sitting on the back because he didn't want to disturb the rotation. But what I did was I kept my eye on him to the point where, in fact, when we get out, Abby goes to the front again and lifts the pace. Mike ignores him. And we're just holding the group pace. But what I was getting at is later on in the ride, you'll see on Springbranch Road, he falls off the pace. We actually thought he had turned with Abby because Abby mentioned to Paul when we're on Huffsmith-Conroe in the neighborhood that he was not going to do the whole ride. I did not know that. And so I'm glad we didn't follow him here. In a little bit we will, but what I'm saying is he's doing a shorter ride. And so now he has lifted the pace. So he's not doing the kilometers of the group. Not that he has to, but you guys have to decide what you want your group to do that day, but you still let people have their fun. So what ended up happening is because we did not abandon Matt out here, we waited on him. We kind of, at the store, we told him, oh yeah, the stop will be here. So that camaraderie, as soon as he got a chance, he gave his information to Paulie Longa so Paul could add him to our group chat where you get dibs on what rides we're doing, the routes and so forth. That's how you grow your group. You are not going to grow your group in dropping everybody that shows up indiscriminately without making sure that someone at least shows a little bit of concern for the people in the different groups. At least somebody hangs back with them and so forth. So you always got to keep your eye on the members. So Doug comes by, he mentions to us, hey guys, it's Saturday, as he goes by. So he's riding up to Abby, and then we decide to lift the pace a little bit. So we're going to ride up to them. It's not like we can't ride like that, but it's a matter of you have to keep your eye on everybody. And what I'm getting at is when your group has splits, if you have multiple leaders, every now and then one of you guys need to stay with the slower group and kind of build that camaraderie. You want to encourage people to come out. people are coming out to ride together with someone. They're not coming out to watch you ride off from them. So, have multiple speed groups, especially as your group grows. It will be easier to have speed groups. It will encourage riders who are out of shape, inexperienced, to come out, knowing that you guys are not just gonna have this elitist attitude and just ride off in the distance from them. Because you're not gonna grow your group like that. You're gonna have the same hammerheads, and that's it. And then what will happen is, when one or two of those hammerheads don't show up, you have a smaller attendance, and eventually the group dries up. You need new blood. So don't look down on the new faces or the people who are out of shape. Let them come in and if they can sit in, it will help them get in shape while you continue to maintain your strength by doing the pulling. You're not losing anything by somebody sitting on your wheel, because if you're pulling, you're still doing the work. And you will see here how the group still breaks up all the way to the end of this film, because this ride was just fast. And that's the way it's supposed to be. But someone else should keep an eye on the visitors or the infrequent members. That will encourage them to come back. That's my goal with this group. I want to grow this group. I want all levels coming out. I've ridden hard. I've done that. Been there, done that. It ain't nothing new. So, I get to do that during the week too. So on the weekends, if I can look after one or two riders, yeah, that's better for the group. I'll do that from time to time. Plus it's early in the year anyway. I don't do much of the USCF racings anymore. I may dabble depending on what goes on, but that's not a goal for me right now. We need to grow cycling. It's shrinking. Got fewer people coming out because they're intimidated. We're calling out to Mike. Mike thought we were going straight, and so call out to him that we're cutting through here, because going straight would be fighting that wind. And so I planned the route knowing that we had this front coming in to keep us going westerly, so we'd have crosswinds on some of the route.
The gate to Grand Lake Estates.
And we're entering the Grand Lake Estates.
The neighborhood, as it's colloquially known.
Yep.
Of course, nobody tells you that.
We shopped for property in here when my wife and I were looking for a place. But I didn't like the speed bumps. You see them when we go over. I didn't like the speed bumps. I don't care for the gates.
Here we go.
And it's just so far out from where our life is centered at this point. But it's a nice neighborhood. They didn't let up. As soon as we turned, Doug took off again, so I'm on his wheel right now. What I do is, if I don't want to go very hard on a ride, if the pace is tolerable and I can sit in, I'll sit in. Whenever I pull through, I don't stay up there very long. I take a few strokes and I get off and let the people who want to force the pace come back and do the work, because they can only really do so much. I mean, if you help that pace and that's not what you want to do, then you prolong the pain, let's say, longer. So I don't participate. I just go through, take a short pull, get off, and let the people who want to ride at that pace come back, and then I can slip back in. I hope that makes sense. Shampusa is shaking his right hand. John on the right in front of Laura. I don't know if it's getting numb or if it's cold. He had mentioned that he mentioned only his index finger was cold. he held up both index fingers. He said, these are cold, through his gloved hand. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we have to, our weather here is really weird. That wet cold is what we have down here. So, and we don't get used to it. Like, as I speak right now, today is going to be almost 28, 29 Celsius, 77, 80 degrees. That's why we don't get used to it. You get these warm days and then boom, a cold front. It just feels like it bites through you. You never get a chance to get your blood thick enough down here. like you guys on the northeastern part of the U.S., like New York and places like Philadelphia, you know, it's cold long enough to where I guess your blood thickens. You know, you just get used to it. Down here is not the case. So we constantly have to be changing wardrobes. So I don't play with the cold down here because when it comes in, it just feels aggressively cold. It goes from like 60 to like 30, you know, in one day. That's a drastic change. And we go through that until like late April, before really around May, then, you know, it's the warm temperatures settle in. Then we start praying for fall to come. And the summers here are brutal. It's just too hot. But Mike Burrell loves our summers. He lived in the Philippines, he said, and it's hotter there. So I guess, yeah, he likes hot weather. He doesn't care for the cold. So he wears heated socks and heated gloves. So somewhere around here, Mo is going to come, maybe in a few kilometers. I think when I'm done pulling, he'll show up. He's chasing right now. And we were not aware of it, you know, because usually he's on time at the start. So something delayed him today. So at this point, Matt is off our pace, I believe. But he's still riding because he knows the route. He knows the area. He's still riding. Because I end up riding in with him, and then more waits for he and I. That's all off camera. I had put the camera I tried to put the camera in my pocket later on this ride. And with the gilet was in the pocket, I was not aware. I put the camera in thinking it was in the pocket, and it wasn't. It had just pushed the gilet down in there. So when I went to zip up the gilet, the camera toppled out. So when I got off the bike to get the camera, that's when Matt came along. And so we ended up riding in together. And I think that went a long way to encourage him to come out again, because after that he basically signed up on our board to join our rides. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Had we just ridden away from him without a care or anybody looking out for him, he wouldn't have felt any camaraderie. So when people come to ride with you, you got to kind of just look out for them. You know, don't treat it like it's an open ride. You know, they have open rides where everybody just shows up, and unless you're tight with someone, nobody cares. This ride is not an open ride. We make sure everybody's okay. If the person insists that we go, then fine. But at least we check on them. And you still get your workout, because like when they stopped at the store, when Matt and I rolled in, they were still there. So we got to recoup together. And then I think from Taco on the way back, he started out earlier before the group. So we rode up to him, you know, even though we went by him. But at that point now, he had already decided, I want to ride with you guys more. And he gave us his information. So let's grow the sport. Let's encourage others who are not the diehards per se, or the fastest riders to come out as well. And you do that by at least encouraging them to come out instead of riding away from them. I think I'm pulling. Yeah, I'm at the front. Doug must have pulled up there while I was chatting here. I don't stay up there very long. I just stand. We kind of go through. I like to stand like that when it's very difficult, or if I'm pulling, it felt better. Shortly after that, I pull off and I wave Mike by right there. I think in a little while, Mo's gonna show up somewhere around here. I look smoother than I feel. I rode all week. I had a full training week, but for some reason this morning, it took me a while to warm up. I'm still not feeling like I'm warmed up. And, I'm sitting around sweet spot, and it's okay, but it's like, I pulled off there because I knew there were more bumps to come. I didn't want to spend too much time up there. I'm sitting at the back. It's not any easier. I'm just out of the wind. I think Paul must have his face covered because his voice sounds muffled. It's cold. 1 Celsius. It's a whopping 33 degrees Fahrenheit. Into the wind. Yeah, this is where Mo shows up. Mo catches up to us. Paul said he stuck his tongue out when he came by. He been riding. He just rolled to the front. He's not gonna go take a lead. He just rolled through. He kept his rhythm. He's been chasing. So we're doing let's say 22, 23 miles an hour, and he rides into the wind and catches the group. That's the level Mo is at, guys, boys and girls. Mo used to race with Cipollini and them at that level. That's the kind of level, I mean, he's not doing the volume he used to do back then, I'm sure, but still. So Paul welcomes him. You can see my watts, they're up. I mean, just around that corner, you got to put the watts down to get up the speed. So Mike Barrera flicked his arm. We're fighting this wind, so he's not going to sit up there too long. We can all share the load. So he's getting off the front, he's going to drift back to the back. So since I was back on my training plan after taking off 12 days, that first week I kind of rode a little conservatively last week. So this week, other than making sure Matt was okay, I always look out for the unfamiliar face in the group, or the non-frequent person. And then once I feel like they're comfortable, they feel welcome, and then I go on by my business. So by the time we got past Taco on the way back, this is off camera, on the final way into town, Mo put down an effort. We chased. I went with the guys and we rode really hard into town. So it's kind of like I felt good. There were no twinges in my legs or anything because I was just kind of gauging to see where my form is. And so you got to listen to yourself. But my main goal on this ride was to make sure that I didn't overdo anything. Even though I had a full training week, I've still been off my plan. Almost a couple of weeks I was off my plan. So it'll take like 2 to 3 weeks to get back into the swing of things with some regular training. So this ride was just for me to find out, okay, are my legs going well? And on Springbranch Road, I had to back off a bit and I missed a move. You'll see it develop. See how smooth Laura looks? There's no rocking, just her legs are moving. That's how you know your saddle is at the right height. She's not scooting around on the saddle. That means she's seated comfortably on the saddle. Obviously, she's had a professional fit. Laura's been riding for 3 years and she has progressed real quickly because she took advantage of professional assistance, getting a coach. I know she got a fit. She even won races in California before she moved back here. So if you want to excel in anything you do, you got to get the right kind of help so that your work is focused and there's no guessing, there's no trial and error. That matters at every level. The pros themselves have coaches, you know that. Besides the director sportif, they have people that work with them. They work on their fit, they work on everything to make sure they're maximizing their time on the bike. And then if you have riders in your area that are close to your level or even better, try to do those rides wherever possible. That will push you, get you there quickly. So at this point, I'm not aware that Abby is not doing the whole ride. You will see him on film wave. I don't even know when he waves because I'm in front at that time. And then later on, I asked where he was, and Paul thought that he and Matt had turned back together. And as I said earlier, Matt happened upon me when I stopped to get the camera. And so we found out that Abby had gone back home alone because Matt was behind him when he turned. And Mo does the same thing. He'll wait, he'll do the efforts, he'll even ride back to pick up riders. Most of the time you don't want Mo coming back to you anyway, because when he comes back to you, he rides just as fast as it was when you were dropped to get you back to the group, because he's riding you back to the group. He doesn't go slowly. So you end up working hard. I mean, you're motivated because you want to stay on the wheel because he comes back for you, you know. But he always comes back, so he gets to do his effort multiple times. But that's how you keep people coming back out. You want to encourage those who are not able to hold the pace within reason. You know, some people just can't hold the pace, and they're just, oh yeah, next time, and that's okay.
Nobody got it. Come on, guys.
Yeah, right here. Nobody wanted to go through. That's what Mo said. Nobody got it. Come on. People want to keep the group moving. Because after, I believe, was it Abby that pulled off? I guess it was Abby that pulled off. So Doug pulls through. Laura is on his wheel. Abby pulls off. Paul is behind. I'm behind. I'm not behind Paul. Right? I might be behind Mo. I think Mo's gonna come around. But I'm sitting in the back right now, just getting something to drink, getting something to eat. That's all I'm doing back there right now, because this course gets harder when we get to Springbranch. You can see my watts because of the wind, and this area here is lumpy. So as you go around with the wind and it kicks up a little bit, even if it's 1 or 2%, you got to work. Slightly downhill here, so the speeds are high. So this road is called the Hills Parkway. We've exited through that gate you saw earlier. We've exited the Grand Lake Estates subdivision. And this is another area where single family homes is taking us to the road called Keenan-Cutoff. We are on the outskirts of Keenan, Texas. K-E-E-N-A-N, Keenan. We're gonna go through Springbranch, which goes through the area called the Tri-Lakes area. Supposedly there are 3 lakes in there. We have a lot of man-made lakes in the area. They tap into creek beds and, you know, wells and different things to keep and make lakes out of them. Even our Lake Conroe is man-made, and it's huge. So I'm eating, drinking, I'm making sure I'm taking care of myself back there. You see the watts are lower than 200 because the road flattens out here. It's gonna kick up a little bit. And what I'm doing is because Keenan-Cutoff going west is lumpy. I don't want to be ingesting anything when I'm working. So now's the time to do it. So because of the wind, it's like 250, 400 and something. The watts, you're just working. You're revving that motor. It's just up and down, up and down. So you gotta stay close. That way you only work when absolutely necessary. So even though I'm doing 300 and some watts, I'm sitting in the draft. I'm using a reasonably sized gear. So most of the time I'm between 85 to 100 RPM. And I'm not thinking about all of that, but from a feel standpoint, I'm not working outside of the norm, my normal rhythm. I'm staying within my normal rhythm. So you'll see 100 RPM, you'll see 80 something or whatever. It's like I have a gear, what I call, I can rev up easily. I'm not doing much shifting because the terrain is pretty flat, with slightly rolling. But this allows you to rest and recover, kind of catch your breath, so to speak. You don't want to be working when it's not necessary. You see, I'm coasting right there. So you can get ready to work when you should be working. This road goes up right here as we exit the subdivision. Paul is standing. You see his shadow? That's why the camera dipped a little. He's still standing, just to keep that gear rolling. See my watch, 400 some watts. I'm behind him, not directly behind him, probably a couple of riders back. Because sometimes I find that standing is better than sitting and spinning, depending on how you feel and how long the elevation is. This is Keenan-Cutoff Road we're coming to. We're going to go west. We're turning left. And so it will give us a break from the wind. That's the reason I picked this route. I don't know if you heard Paul take a deep breath there. So we're all working. So I'm going to go to the left here because everybody's slowing down. I want to keep rolling. Right there. I'm on the left there. An old dog. You got to stay close. We're already working. There's no point in closing gaps. So I'm already on the wheels. I'm not messing around because I know this road. You see here, you can see the road visually go up. And until we get to 149, it's up and down.
All got the Belgian booties under there.
Yeah, sir.
Mike Barrera. He said something about Belgian booties at the shoe covers.
True.
That's old school stuff. The Belgian booties. This is Belgian weather. It's cold and windy. So on this road here, even though the wind's coming from the right, we don't feel it that much because going west, the wind seems to be, right now it seems to be like northwesterly. So we're dealing with wind in our face, then a little bit from the right, but not as much. So you got to look for that draft. But right now it seems best to just be right behind the wheel. Doug's blowing his nose. He's going to drift. I left a gap for him to come right back, just enough for one bike. All those details matter because anything you have to close unnecessarily will tap into your energy stores. So you look at the watts. Anytime I'm over 350, that's a work interval there. But most of the time I'll ride to 250, whatever, that 500 some watts. We're working here. Let's see, 2%. That stretches where it's probably 3% or so. So what you want to do is when you're working this hard, you can see my heart rate went up to like 170. The body's doing what it needs to do to get the nutrients to my muscles. I don't really worry too much about it. All I focus on is my rhythm. Am I over revving or am I pushing too low of a gear, torque? You want to work in a range rhythm-wise to where your legs can utilize the nutrients that are coming in. They don't seize up on you. And you don't want to over rev to where your respiration gets out of control. Then you'll need to recover because you can go anaerobic spinning your tail off. So if you notice, my cadence is going to be in like the 90s to like maybe right under 100 or so. I don't think about it. That's what just feels like a good working range at this time, because it's always different. You're always going to feel different. Sometimes you want to push more or drop the rhythm, you know, to the 80s or whatever. So don't give it much thought. Just pay attention to, is this feeling right for me right now? Does it feel like I can do this forever, or do I need to change this rhythm because I don't like it? That's what should be on your mind. And you change the rhythm by either downshifting or shifting up. You see how close I am to the wheel? There is no gap in front of me. I am focused. Because my thing was, I am not going to waste any energy because we got Springbranch Road coming up. I use my mirror to make sure the group is still together. I look in my mirror very frequently. It's very helpful without having to turn my head, especially in a line like this, and I'm following the rider so close. I am tighter on the wheel in front of me than Abby is on my wheel. The Doug is easy to follow. He's smooth. The more experienced the rider is, chances are they're very easy to follow. Generally. There are exceptions, of course, but generally. So I'm really close to Doug's wheel. We have a nice tight line here. Paul's doing his deep breathing. It's like this ride just started fast. It stayed fast. I was trying to actually get, I thought about drinking right there. I reached for the bottle, then I kind of let it go. You know, when I'm wearing gloves, sometimes the feel is not the same. So I really like to take out my bottles when I am not really focused on working so hard. I didn't really need to drink. It just crossed my mind. And the same thing with putting something in there, you fuel in the engine. Whenever it crosses my mind, I try to just do that. But I didn't really need to, so I said, I'll just wait till we get to the corner at 149 or maybe on Springbranch Road and I can reach for the bottle. And this whole stretch, Laura is pulling. So Laura did some big pull, big work here. I think Laura is pulling. Mo is on her wheel. Doug is on Mo's wheel. I'm on Doug's wheel. Then Abby, Champoussin, Paul, and I believe behind Paul is probably Mike Barrera. San Diego, Texas, Mike. So I really enjoyed this stretch. It was kind of good to do this kind of effort. You know, the heart rate has dropped, the terrain is milder, but basically it was like soon to the sweet spot. I'm still staying really close to those guys because they don't back off much. This is where Abby's leaving. I'm not aware of it because I'm up there.
I'll call you.
Okay, all right. Where are you going, Abby? I'll go home. Whoa. Okay, Abby.
So Abby did a big ride, about 140 kilometers yesterday, Friday, before this ride. So he's doing less today. It's about 84, 85 miles, something like that, on a Friday. That's a lot of miles. I don't ride that long on Friday. If I ride, it's just to test my equipment. 60 to 90 minutes at the most. That's just the way I ride. I save it for the big rides. This is when I have the time, man. You know. He had the time yesterday, so that's what he did. So we turn here. I'm sitting, I believe, behind Doug. In a little while, in about a kilometer, we're going to encounter a bunch of mud on the shoulder, dropped by some truck. That Shepherd's not shaking his hand again. If his hand is getting numb, then he needs to have his fit revisited. That means he has too much weight on the bars. Your hands should not be getting numb. That's a fit issue. And that will help your performance. If you get rid of what's causing the numbness, then you can focus more on using your energy to pedal the bike. Right now he's using some energy to put weight on that hand to offload whatever part is uncomfortable. That's why it's getting numb. He's grabbing the bars to unload some spot he doesn't like, either with his foot or the saddle. That's how the body works. This is where all these pieces of mud, the chunky mud. So I'll back off a little bit in the front so I can see the mud. And so Mo and Doug will be a little in front of me. I use my mirror and I can see that there is a car behind us, but the driver waits because he sees Mo signal that we're going to be turning left in the distance. The driver is behind out of camera, and so I get on the road when I notice the driver has slowed down. That mirror has been invaluable to me. I wish I had gotten it decades ago. I love his form factor too. So we turn onto Springbranch Road here. So you have to traverse some busy roads, keep them short to get you to quieter roads. Seek it out. See, Shepherd's not shaking his hand. His hand's numb. So what Mike is telling Paul is that we lost Matt. Matt is the guy I was talking about who is a bit infrequent with the group. So Matt is back there. I don't see him in my mirror, so I know he's not with us. But I'm not sure if he's doing the whole ride, not doing the whole ride. Yeah. So when he happened upon me, these guys take off again. You'll hear Paulie Longa.
These guys would never quit.
Mo is at the front. I ended up averaging a little over 200 watts on the whole ride, which is more than I normally average. So yeah, it was a harder ride, and I think it was because of not only the company, but the terrain and the conditions. We fought the wind going and coming. By the time we get into Montgomery area, we turn around, we're coming back after going to near the forest. The wind has shifted. The day was a little warmer, not significantly so, but 8 or 9 Celsius, I guess. But the wind started coming from the southeast, so we did not get a reprieve. And that's what you got to deal with. That's what you got to deal with. So all through here, I'm enjoying the ride. I'm just sitting in. I keep my eye on the mirror and I look to see who's behind. I make sure everybody's here. I know Matt's not here because I could tell early in the ride that he was not at the level of sitting in with us at this point. He needs more rides. So I'm glad he signed up because not all our rides are this fast all the time. So people get a chance to catch their breath and catch back up when we regroup. I'm sitting very close to Doug's wheel. Jean-Poussai is trying to get some circulation in his fingers. And sometimes it's just a minor tweak in the fore-aft or the height of your saddle, and also your cleat, your lateral positioning of your cleat. That will allow your rear to take the weight that you're trying to on-weight. So it is a science, and so a lot of riders try to self-fit, and sometimes, if you're still having these issues where you're riding, you have numbness after 30, 40 minutes, yeah, you need to get a professional to help you. And the changes don't have to be major. I'm talking millimeters. 3 millimeters can make a difference. That's the minimum change I make, is 3 mil. You make a 3 mil change for the person to feel that change. But you have to know which direction or what change to make. You can't just be guessing. We're approaching there is an 8 or 9% climb here on Springbranch. I love this road. My legs were not happy today when we got to this road. I had to take a break. I took a break for too long and the group rode away from us. You'll see it develop. I didn't push hard enough when I got to this climb. I should have used a larger ratio. So we're approaching at 40 kilometers an hour. You know, it's slightly downhill, so there's not big watts. But climbing this hill, I need about 500 or so watts. You will hear Mike say Laura probably needs 250. These lightweight guys and girls. So right here, I'm in too small of a ratio. I realize it, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to change my rhythm. So Paul comes around. I believe Shempusam, Mike, I just slip on the back. But I keep my ratio small, which kept my legs fresh. But I really should have been up there.
Laura had to do about 200 watts right there.
Mike said Laura had to do 200 watts to get by. We're doing 500. So I'm behind probably John. I'm just sitting and watching. We ride back up to these guys. I ended up taking too long of a break and was not paying attention. You would see them right away. And then by the time I realized it, I'm like, I'm not going to kill myself to close it. It was a big gap. I wasn't in the mood for that. So we're all together here, you know, except for Matt. Matt's off camera. We're riding the edge of this road because they scraped the corner. I'm sitting on the edge, and then right there I come back over. I'm behind Paul. I'm spinning a reasonably sized gear, you know, about 100 RPMs, close to 100 RPMs. And then I'm going to shift up. You see my cadence go down a little bit. I'm probably standing. You know, it just felt good. So all through here felt easy. Easier than on that climb, you know, the climb itself. But we're still going into the wind. I think this is where they start to pull away. And by the time I realize that the gap is huge.
You okay, Paul?
So John asked Paul if he's okay. Paul said, yeah. And then I'm going to just come by and sit on John. I was on John's wheel anyway. I just stay there. We come around Paul. I decide I'm just going to spin because we've got probably another 60 kilometers to ride. We just started the ride, you know. And so I just sit behind John, just keep my rhythm the same. I'd have to do 400 some watts to get up to those guys, but I would have made the move quicker, you know, had I seen it. I didn't see it. I just wasn't paying attention. Somebody lifted the pace. At this point, we're not cold anymore. We've been riding hard. You can see the temperature is now 4 or 5 Celsius. So even though we're going into the wind here, I'm sitting on John's wheel, figuring when he's done, he will kind of tap out per se. I don't think he ever does. I think I just end up riding around him when he starts slowing down. I think he pulls to the left. Because John has a tendency to ride himself into the ground. That's why we call him Clément Champoussin. He rides until his legs fall off. John has a never say die. Oh man. I don't know if it's here, but I'm gonna be standing and then John's wheel backs up to me. So I will just like hold, coast per se. It's probably on the next climb. He's got a good rhythm, so I figure, okay, I'll let him work. When he's done, I can go through. You'll see the watts go up because the road's going up here. So normally when I ride solo, I mean, at least when I glance at the power meter, this is the range, 350, 450, as far as just riding those hills in the area that we live in. John pulls off, I just continue the same rhythm. You don't want to accelerate too much. You want to keep your group together. So I just keep the effort. And that's why I don't like to look at speed, because it felt like we were going slow here, but I knew we were working. I mean, you can feel it. There were stretches of the ride where I would see 18, 20 kilometers an hour, but I felt like, man, we're on a climb here, we're working. Let's keep the rhythm going. Paul is coming on the right because that wind that we were battling when we're headed west is coming from the left, and then we got some wind in the front. So he's staying on my hip here to at least give him a chance to recover. Now I'm aware, I see him out there on my periphery. I can see him. So he's not trying to pass me. He's trying to maximize shelter here. In a short while, I guess we're not going fast enough for John because he's going to come back around. And I just let him, so I just get on his wheel. Because this road, it kind of, I guess it's kind of go north and then it goes a little west at the end. So it's a twisty road. I'm just keeping the pace steady, the effort. This will allow people to catch their breath. All I focus on is pulling up. Use the big muscles in the back of your legs. And John comes around, I just continue, and all I do is I lift my cadence. At this point, we can't see the group. We could see them for a bit, but we can't see them at this point with all the rollers out here. In a few kilometers, we'll see Mo. He'll come back. I think this is where I start to go, and then I his wheel backs up on me. I don't know if it's here or not. Right there, yeah. I just kind of stopped because like it felt like he was right there. It's like I was going too fast, I guess. It just seemed to come back on me. Maybe I went up on him. But I always try to keep my wheel free and clear. That keeps it protected in case the rider in front changes lines. This road, the direction has changed a bit. It snakes. It goes west, and it goes north, and it goes northwest, and it comes back north. Right now, we're kind of going to be leaning towards more of a westerly direction. It's a nice road. Got a good workout. Whenever I have time, I head out here. I like this road. Somewhere around here, I spot Mo. I think I see him before he even shows up on camera. I don't know if it's here or after that hill. At the end of this road is when Paul hands me the camera and I go to put it up, and I had to unzip the gilet, and that's when I had when it falls out of my pocket. There's more on the left, yeah. The guys are right up there. The intersection at the end of this road with Plantersville Road is right up there. Mo's gonna lift the pace as usual, so I'll lift my pace. We're going to be turning left on Old Plantersville Road. The guys are at that corner. At this point, I asked about Matt. We got off camera. At this point, we've stopped at Taco. We're headed back into town. We cut through a parking lot over there behind us. There's a Chick-fil-A. And these guys take off again. Well, I'm going to tell Paul, I'm not chasing them.
I need to shift.
I'm not chasing those guys.
I thought I said, I'm not chasing those guys. We had cut through the Chick-fil-A parking lot, and you saw how those cars were turning as we turned onto the road. So we hesitated a little bit, and those guys were chasing up to Mo and Laura because they had gone straight on the highway we had cut through. So by the time we got onto that hill, they were already gapping us. And that's why you heard me say, I'm not chasing them. So we're going to go ahead and ride, and we'll regroup at Mill Route. We're going through Mill Route to go back. So they can ride at their effort and we can ride at ours here. The whole ride had been on the rivet pretty much. We went down 1097 before we stopped at Taco. I ended up having to go back to check on Matt and Paul. And so you heard Paul say, oh, I need to shift. He was having trouble shifting. His gloves were so thick with the liner that he had put in there. So he had trouble shifting. So that's what he was talking about. So right here, all I'm doing is I'm trying to keep the effort to where the three of us will stay together. Champoussin is behind Paul Ilonga right now. So the three of us are riding together. This road is very deceptive. The wind has shifted. We now have it in our face and coming from the left. And this road is a grade. It's like a ninja grade. See in the distance, going to kick up. So we just finished climbing a 4%, 3 to 4% climb back there. And so I'm just keeping it steady. I believe the wind is coming from the left. I'm not sure why I'm on the right, unless it was blustery. Because I'm always aware of where the wind is coming from, and I usually place myself on the wind side, you know, so that the guys can get. But it might be blustery. It might be blowing from the right. I'm holding a rhythm I can hold all day, so I'm not really concerned about what those guys are doing. We can see them in the distance. They're climbing where that car, the second car, is in the distance. I figure we'll catch up to them by mill route. They'll probably wait a little bit. They'll get their effort out of the way, and then we can ride with them. So this is the B group on the way, on the road here right now. There are about, Frank joined the group at the store when we stopped at Taco. Frank was there. He didn't do the distance we did, but he's coming back with us. So Frank is up there, Mike Barrera is up there. So there's 4 riders up front and 3 riders back here. It says 15 Celsius. It does not feel like 15 Celsius because normally 15 Celsius is about 60. It feels like we're barely at 10 Celsius. It just stayed cold. So all I changed was I took the liners out of my glove. I'm wearing the Rafa Pro Team gloves. I took the liners out and these gloves are fine in this temperature range. But we're going directly into the south wind now. Keeping the rhythm reasonably in zone 2. There's a grade we just finished. I'm going to get on the big chain ring to keep the effort the same. In a little bit, Champoussin will come to the front to give me a break. But what he doesn't realize is it's very windy, and then he will slow down once he gets to the front when the wind hits him, and then I'm going to roll. Our riders going the opposite way. Those are people we know, probably from the Zantes guy. They left later, probably. I like to leave at the same time on Saturday as early as possible. I have other commitments in the middle of the day. You leave too late, you can't ride as long. But if you leave at noon, but if you ride 5 or 6 hours, the day's over. Sunlight's gone. I like to have my afternoons available. So Champoussin is coming up. I'm gradually inching the pace up. He comes up. I'm going to get behind him. But it's very windy here. The little guys have trouble in the wind. So I'll just sense that he's slowing down, and I will move to the front again, just to get us to those guys. And when we turn on the corner, Laura will be there. She would have waited for us. Whatever gear I'm in, I want to roll it faster. You saw me hesitate a couple of times because he's going a little slower than I expected. I was trying to not accelerate too much. The road has flattened out a little bit, and now we're getting pounded by the wind. You can hear it. I'm barely pedaling continually. You can see my cadence is like I'm feathering the gear. And I realize he's slowing down. Let me go ahead and help him, because he'll stay there till he dies. It's like he just keeps going. And so I just roll to the front. I'm trying to give him a wheel, but then Paul comes with me. You hear the wind pick up. So I treat it like a climb. I'm using more force here. Yeah, we don't worry about the wind. We just work. Got to do the work. I figure about 22, 23, we should catch up pretty quickly. Right around here, the wind just really started to pound us. There's a slight grade, like a ninja grade 1%. I downshift one cog and put more force into the pedals. You got to do that by feel. There's no point in you flogging a gear slower and slower to where your legs die on you. I had hoped we'd have the tailwind coming back home, but the wind shifted on us. I guess that's why the day warmed up. Well, relatively, it says 15C, but with the moisture and the high humidity in the air. I'm looking in my mirror. It's clear. I'll let them know we're turning. And Laura's right on the right here on Mill Route.
Lorita, thanks for waiting.
Lorita, I think that's the Spanish version of Laura. So I'm looking in my mirror, keep my eye on her, because she was standing still when we went by. I don't want us to gap her too much. She's going to come and roll to the front. Those are the things you got to look for when you're waiting for people. You got to kind of get going just as they're getting to you. Otherwise, you can get gapped. I let Paul know I'm going to take that space. I never assume that he's going to let me in. I always make sure he's letting me in before I slide in there. Because sometimes he wants to roll through. And what we do sometimes when he does that, if he rolls through, he would just hand me the camera. That's why I'm telling Chef Poussin, I said the wind shifted on us. Because we're working into the wind here. The other riders are in the distance. They're kind of soft pedaling. There's more on the left. Mike Barra and Frank are a little further ahead. when you're riding in your group with other people that may want to go harder, say on an incline or whatever, and either you don't want to do that or you're not in the mood or your fitness does not allow you, no problem letting them go and catch back up either on the downhill or on the flats. Or they might wait, like you saw Mo waiting over there. I mean, there's no point in you blowing up just to keep up with somebody on a long ride. If it's at the end of the ride, fine. Keep that in mind. Because you don't really help yourself if you just blow up to where you have to slow way down. You want to push that ceiling gently, gradually, over time. That threshold. And there, sometimes you go over and under, and that's okay. But you got to know how you're feeling. Can you do more of it? If you've already been digging, then you don't want to go back to the well too often and empty it out. So we had planned to come through here. We're going to take South Pine Road, which is a grade. We're catching up to, this is Matt in the Chartreuse. That's the guy who just started riding with us. I mean, he's been riding in the area like a couple of summers ago. I remember him from his shoes. You see that blue and that pink? I remember his shoes more than anything. But we were working really hard 2 years ago in the summer, and I just remember seeing those shoes in front of me in the forest, and it just stayed in my mind. So I told him about it. I said, I remember your shoes, and we laughed about it when we rode in together earlier. So he had taken off ahead of us, and he was ahead, and we've caught up to him here on Mill Route. So he knows the route. But he was with us at Taco, and he just left before we took off. Sometimes that works, you know. And at this point, he's already given his information to Paul, so we can add him to the group chat so he can get the routes. He can kind of know what we're doing, so if he chooses to join, he can join our rides. And that's the way you have to do. You want to encourage people to come back. Resist the urge to just ride away from people. That does not grow the sport. You know, you don't have to wait for everybody, but at least you guys can have an ambassador of your group hang with the other riders. You know, you guys can alternate. One day if somebody stays with the group B or C or whatever. And that's how you encourage people. Nobody wants to come out to ride with a group and end up riding alone. That's not fun. We've all been there. It happens sometimes, but at least give them some encouragement. So we turn here and these guys twist the screw really hard, and to Shempusan's credit, he lets them go. I just sit on his wheel. I don't feel like working that hard right here. I just sit on Shempusan's wheel. So 2% grade. So at this point, it's Shempusan, myself, and Paul. Matt is a little off our wheel. Those guys are in the distance. We're just going to keep the gaps. We had ridden very hard on 1097. So I'm making sure that I have enough left to where I can finish the ride really strong, since it's my second week back after that little break I took. Finish the ride really strong and have no ill effects, you know, meaning cramping, all that kind of stuff. And it's hard to know until you get there, but I'm thinking, well, we're going to go on Fish Creek. We got to bump Fish Creek when you get into town. I said, okay, let me save it for that stretch. That's what's on my mind here. So even though I'm feeling good, I did not go with them. Because you never know how your body's going to feel. The outfit I put together was perfect for these conditions, because even though the temperature went up a bit, it didn't warm up that much. You can see it's actually 2 degrees cooler than earlier. It said 15, now it's 13. It feels cooler than 10C. It's about 8 or 9. That's what it feels like with the wind and our humidity. I did not need to take anything off other than my liners and my gloves. The Assos booties worked really well. Kept my feet warm the whole time. Very comfortable. I used the Rafa base layer on my chin by pulling it up to cover that neck area of my chin. Made a big difference. So I didn't have to wear a neck gaiter. It's kind of built in. It's a smart garment. I don't know if I did a review of that or not, but I will check and make a note here. May need to do one. Because not all base layers are created equal.
Car back.
I heard a rooster crow right there, as Paul said, car back. Mo is at the corner. And he lets us know there's a car coming. There's a car behind us as well. And he's waiting. And we'll go ahead and turn. So at this point, we've got like the one big hill in town. We've got this one. So I'm counting the hills in my mind based on the route. We got Leah Drive. I decide, okay, now it's time to ride. Because my legs feel good. There's no sign of any twinging or anything because I did a lot of riding this week. And that was another concern. How would I feel today, you know, when you get back into your program? I gave myself like a couple of weeks to get back up to full load. But still, you never know. I don't increase my volume too much. So I went up just a little bit from the week before after the break. And so by this point, my legs are still feeling good. I decide I'm going to stay with the front group going forward here. That's why I say when you're on a ride and people get dropped or they fall off the pace, don't get excited. Don't gauge your fitness by that because you don't know what's going on with that person. You're riding against you. You know, that's what it comes down to. So now knowing that my legs are holding up, no worries with the load from the first week back and the load from my second week, I decide I'm going to ride. I go ahead and pull in front of Shepusai just to give him a wheel. I think once again, Paul comes with me. We ride together a lot, so he kind of knows. He can tell by my body language when I'm ready to ride. So I just pulled through. Mo is waiting on Matt. He's still behind there. They're gapped a little bit. Mo's going to bring Matt back. So you see, we're all trying to kind of keep our eye on Matt to keep everybody together. And that's kind of cool. Because if you're one of the stronger riders in the group, think about it. If you go back for someone, and let's say you drop the pace just enough to where you can come back, you're doing a lot more work because you rode back and you pulled that rider back. So Mo is getting like more of a workout when he goes back and brings people back and so forth and so on. So you're not losing anything when you help other riders because you're doing more work. So you ever have a flat that's more. Matt is back. I was just telling Laura that Mo was waiting for Matt. And then he zooms by and I looked in my mirror and I saw Matt. Matt's wearing a chartreuse jacket, so he's easy to spot. So that's what we're talking about. I'm going to ride up the Mo's wheel. It's not easy following Mo. He sits so much lower than I do. Look at him. Look at him in the distance. I mean, it's like he rolls his body over that stem. Look at that. So when I'm following Mo, I get as low as I can, and I barely get much of a draft. I think my bike gets a draft. I don't think my body does. This car's turning right. Mo sees it. So we hit slow down, and we can go. Nothing else coming. That's a dead end to the right. So I hope you guys got a chance to see. Maybe we'll see it again. Notice when he's riding, he gets really, really aero. Just very flexible. He rolls his body over. Now go ahead and get on this wheel right here. This road is kind of like 0 to 2%. It cheats. It's flat, but it looks flat, but it feels like a 2%. It says 1 over there. You feel it more than anything. So I'm on Moore's wheel now, and I'm not letting go. I am very close. My legs are holding up, and I'm like, okay, I know I can get home without killing myself. We're passing. I called to those guys. Come on, guys, because they were waiting for us. That's Frank and Mike Barrera. I let them know so they don't get gapped. Because whenever you're gapped, you got to put out big watts to get up to speed. You know, that initial burst. So I'm down. I think I used the drops and then the tops for the most part, this stretch. Look how much lower Moore sits than I do. Let's see if the camera will give us a shot. Right. He's probably 6 inches lower than I am. I am just sitting. See, we're pulling away. I mean, this is hard. We're going into the wind at 23-24. Mike Barrera comes around. Frank's gonna call out to Paul. Paul's getting a little tired. Paul's like, sheesh, we've been doing this all day. And for he and I, this is like 5 hours into our ride. It's just hard, you know. But that's the stuff that makes you strong. Once he recovers, next week will be going even better. So there was a bit of a let up, so he gets back. In a little while, he would just let us go because he knows that there's an intersection coming. It's just enough of this. And then he tells me that his gloves are giving him challenges shifting. You know, at this point, it's warm enough to where, you know, we don't have time to stop. I think actually Paul was using the Sportful gloves. There is a rider we're going to come across. I think it's Peter. I don't know if it's here. I don't think it's already happened. I think we've already, I don't know if we already passed Peter or not, but he's going to ride up to Mo because he sees us and he said, oh, I'm going to go back with you guys. No fun riding alone in this wind. So Paul's being gapped here, so he's having to work really hard here. I am locked in up there. Hopefully he gets closer. Yeah. Okay, this is John coming around. Okay, that's Peter. Peter already has seen us and he turned around. Ends up going with us. This is where Paul lets us go, but we regrouped at the corner in the distance. So I don't know what you did on Saturday, but this is part of what we did on Saturday. Remember, get your K's in and keep all those doctors fired.